Hello, everybody, and welcome back to math class. So today we're doing lesson 103, which is fractions equal to 1 and fractions equal to 1/2. So in this, the new concept we're learning today is how to differentiate fractions that equal to 1 and fractions that equal to 1/2. So if the numerator, which is our top number, and our denominator, which is our bottom number, are the same, they're always going to equal 1. So if I have 2 over 2, I have 2 parts to my circle, it's always going to equal 1. Okay? If my numerator of a fraction is half of the bottom, which is my denominator, then my fraction is going to equal to 1/2. Because when I simplify my 2 halves, simplifying it so I can divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this fraction is always going to equal 1/2 because it can never be 1, because my numerator is bigger than my denominator. This is always going to be equal to 1 because my numerator and my denominator are both the same. Okay? So remember, when we are trying to figure out our fractions, either if they're equal to 1 or equal to 1/2, that fraction bar is always an indicator of division. So if I have my 2, I'm really saying 2 divided by 2. This is my fraction bar, and that's why I get my answer as 1. When we have our halves, we are dividing from the top and the bottom. We have to do it from the same number. The same number has to be. So if this was 3 over 4, and let's say our 3 went into 4 3 times, I would do the same thing that I do from the top, what I do for the bottom. Okay? So then I can it would simplify and equal a smaller number. Equal simplified as to 1/2. Okay? So some questions that we need to consider is, what does the denominator of a fraction represent? Well, I'll tell you. It's the number of equal parts in which any fraction or picture of fractions that we see is divided. So if I had a picture of a circle and it was divided by, let's say, 5 equal parts. Okay? That denominator is showing me how many parts I have of my circle, and then my numerator is also going to be how many is shaded in. So then it brings me to saying, well, what does the numerator represent? The numerator, I already said, is the number of shaded parts. So remember, denominator is the number of equal parts in which is divided, and our numerator represents the number of shaded pieces from our fraction. Okay, so let's do 2 examples. The first one is, I'm going to write a problem, and I want you to think about how am I going to write this fraction? So, if I were to write a fraction, and I'm asking you to write a fraction that equals to 1, but the denominator has to be 7. So how am I going to write that? I'm going to do is I already know I need a fraction that equals to 1. So my denominator is 7. Now I have to think, equal to 1. What was our definition? Right. Our numerator and our denominator both have to be 7. So then my answer is going to be 7 over 7, which equals 1. Now our next one is, we need to figure out which one of these fractions equals 1/2. Well, I know I can't divide 5 and 9 together, and then I can't divide 3 and 7. What about 6 and 2? I divide 6 from each side, and then I get 1/2.